Okay, now you're recording.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out and joining me today on the NewEra YouTube channel. What we're going to be discussing in great detail is the use of MYTCE, an enhancement in the integrity controls environment. As you can see, we're logged on to the ISPF primary option menu. Now this is a somewhat unusual entry point for access to the data stores within the integrity controls environment. Up until recently, access was confined to the VTAM application we refer to as ICE. But today, we're able to access that same data store from TSO ISPF, giving you an opportunity to leverage your investment in the control editor and in ICE and spread the power of the control editor across your entire organization. Now to begin, we go to the command line and type TSO $ control line interface CLI comma asterisk MYTCE. The panel that appears next is the first of several that will be used today to demonstrate how TCE collects information across a broad area of things that would be of interest to ZOS system programmers and users in general. Now you notice on the screen a pop-up that said, hey, you've got new interval and/or batch reports that have been created for you. And we're going to show you how those are created and what they contain. This is one of several of the panels that we are going to use to actually build our reports, execute them at intervals, or run them in real time by selecting the Run Now option that you see in the bottom right-hand part of the screen. Now when we come into the screen for the first time, you'll notice that the cursor at the bottom has been placed over one of our little bubbles highlighted in yellow. Those little bubbles represent navigation aids that help you to move from one to the next of the 6 different panels that support MyTCE. Right now, we're in the backup journals. But if we click the next button over, we now move to the event journals. When we click the next one over, we move to the command class reporting interface. When we click the next one over, we move to the System Messages interface. When we click the next one over, we move to the User ID Activity Reporting mechanisms. Now, this is a kind of interesting one because it gives you access to those things that are attributed to your specific TSO user ID. So for example, if I put the cursor under my user ID, PROBY1, and press enter, we'll see a report shortly that gives us a profile of my activities for some period of time. You'll notice that we are able to define that period of time here, beginning on February 19th. And here's the report showing everything that I have been doing that has been collected by the integrity controls environment that indicates that I've either issued commands, updated data sets, may have had some system message that was created that related to my TSO user ID. I can also take that information and turn it into a report, and that report can be viewed and or moved to the Move Copy utility, the name of the data set automatically entered in the Move Copy utility panel, and from here I can save it anywhere I want to review it, to look at it for whatever specific purpose I have in mind. And I can also do this for other individuals that might be colleagues of mine or in my work group. One important point about MyTCE is that it makes a hard distinction between those that are classified as ICE administrators and those that are classified as ICE users. ICE users could only get access to their own information about their own logon ID, while administrators can gain access to all of the users that are specified in this panel, or by clicking to the right on the little caret, other users that are specified in this panel as well. So you can specify up to 30 individual users and run them all at once by simply checking this and clicking Run Now, or creating a report, if you would like, that would run at any time of day, week, and or month, if you set it up, that would give you the information that you're looking at on yourself or those in your team. When we go to the last bubble, we see a very interesting and quite different collection mechanism of information within the integrity controls environment, which we refer to as PSWD. PSWD gives individual users an opportunity to track the use of their logon credentials, the reset of their logon credentials, and the expiration of their logon credentials. And they can do this by specifying when they want the tracking to begin each day, by specifying a time, when they want the tracking to end each day, by specifying another time, hours and minutes, and specifying the day that they want the tracking to be associated with. All days in a week, or just a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. They can do the same thing with resets of their credentials, and they can also ask for notification by email of the expiration of their password so that they can take appropriate action to fix that problem before it becomes a problem for them. They can run reports here, they can run interactive environments here, all of which give them increasing amounts of detail about the use of their credential, hopefully a preferred credential, that gives them privileges that are not necessarily available to other users within the environment. Now I'm going to go back to the events panel. All I have to do is put the cursor there and I'll run right back to that particular bubble. Or I can use PF3 to move from one bubble to the next, as you see me doing now. But I'll stop here on the events journal. Now there's a number of things that are of interest to almost everyone about the events that are being collected that relate to controlled data sets within the integrity controls environment. One of the important points about MYTCE is it gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility to decide what type of data characterization you would like to apply to that information. You can categorize it by category, or you can categorize it by event class. Now, if you decide that you want to categorize it by category, one of the neat ways to see that information is to use what we refer to as an active matrix. The active matrix is essentially a live TSO ISPF interface that allows you to probe into the categories or the event classes at a much deeper level. Now I've selected that now and I've said, hey, I want categories. I want my report to begin in March 1st, so everything for this month. I want to do it with active matrix and I want to run it now. So I'll go ahead and run it. And when it resolves itself, what you'll see is a presentation that shows us the number of events that have impacted specific categories that have been defined within the integrity controls environment. Now, as I said, this is an active matrix. So putting the cursor under, for example, pat.dir5 and pressing enter will reveal to us all of the controlled data sets, in this case files, that have been defined to that particular category within the integrity controls environment. And so we could page down through this to see exactly what it is that's being captured by what we refer to as a policy decision point. When I PF3 back and I put the cursor under, let's say, the 1, it will go off and find the one event that has been captured that is within that category since the 1st of March. And we can do this repetitively, and we can change the format. So for example, if we decide that we want to change it to reveal event class, we just come back to the primary menu, we click event class, and we run now. And this time, when the panel resolves itself, we're going to find a situation where we have a completely different view of how that information, those events that have occurred since the 1st of March, are going to be displayed. Instead of displaying them in an active matrix by category, we now see them displayed in an active matrix by event type: save, edit, first, edit, audit, detected, attempted, edit. Now, these are cryptic, of course, only so much room here. But because this is an active matrix, you can put the cursor under that value, in this case, attempted edit, and press enter, and it'll actually tell you what that means. This is an attempted edit failed due to some unclassified action, meaning that the user saw the fact that this was going to be a controlled event and decided to back out. But even though his changes, whatever they may have been, were not saved, the fact that he had or she had entered into an event transaction where that could have potentially happened, that information is captured in our control journal. So we can continue to do that, exploring each of these. Here's an audit, a change to a member detected prior to an EDIF window display. We use EDIF within the control editor as our vehicle for displaying information within the integrity controls environment. At the moment in time when we enter that window, we make an analysis of the component or file or sequential data set or member in a partition data set that the user is attempting to edit. If we find that at that moment the data set or file or member is different from that which we had last stored in our control journal, we will identify it as a detected event and record it in our control journal, making sure at all points in time we have the latest and greatest version of the data, and that latest and greatest version can be used not only as a restore point, but can also be used for creating a configuration audit. If we put the cursor under the 13 and press enter, we'll see that in this particular case, those 13 events are applicable to a data set that is referred to as IFO test.parmlog. If we expand the list, that is, if we list what's in there, we'll see that there are 3 members, one of which has 8 versions, one of which has 1 version, one has 4. We can list out all the versions. Here they are. And we can, if we choose to, put an E on the command line and press enter, and we can actually drop in to edit, of course, under the control of the control editor, and update or make a change at this particular point in time. Of course, because we have all the versions, we could also type on the command line restore, and this would give us access to all of the versions of that particular member that have been stored in the control journal, irrespective of date, where we could compare one to the other pick the one that we believe is best suited for a restoration of service, place an R next to it, and restore that particular component back into the system in a live configuration stream. So PF3ing back now to our active matrix, we might ask ourselves a question. Well, we know what it is. We know what that is. This is all really cool and wonderful, but can you give me a report? The question is, of course, yes. Type report on the command line, press enter, and now we have a report of all of that activity. When we come back, we go through the move copy utility again, and then when we back up and go to the command line, we can type report detail. And now we pick up additional information about each of the events that have occurred in this particular context with the data that was provided for this particular query from the originating panel. And you can see that information here. The source is information from March 1st. It's filtered by event class, and it is presented in a form or format that we refer to as meta detail. Its source is the event journal. The report date, the report time, and the initiating user are embedded in the report itself. But the user, again, has access to the report copy utility. Again, pressing enter puts the name of the data set that the report was built in on the line. And from here, of course, you can move this, copy it, perhaps print it to your heart's content. We PF3 back. Now, it is often the case that people will ask anyone, because this is going to spread throughout your organization, can you make a report for me? Could you send me a copy of that report? And the answer is yes. In the upper right-hand corner, you see another little caret. When you click it, the panel will resolve to reveal two copy email addresses that you can copy if you want to. You notice that one is checked, Pat's, and one is not, Glenn's. If I uncheck Pat and I go back to the prior panel, you'll notice that the little caret turned from red to white. The red nature of the caret is to become an eye catcher and a notification to you that your reports are being sent to someone other than yourself. Of course, you can, if you like, change the subject message. You can decide whether or not you want email delivery at all. By the way, turning off email delivery doesn't affect the running of the reports themselves, which are going to be stored in a data store with all your reports. You can decide whether or not you want email. Yes, I want email, but I only want it when the report changes. I don't want to see a repetitive report sent to me constantly. You can then make a decision as to whether or not you want this report sent daily, weekly, or monthly. Notice in this case, this event journal, there are no checks before day or week. But as we move back to the backup journals, now we're in another panel, we see that day and week are checked. So you can make a decision to mix and match the content of your report. As you move forward, you can change this at any time. You can update it whenever you like, but realize that when this execution occurs, it is done at a macro level. All reports are generated at one time, and all of them are grouped together and sent to you as a single email. While the day, week, and month may vary from panel to panel, the actual set time, the hour, and the minute will be the same on all panels, meaning that all reports are run at the same time. Only a system administrator can actually update the time or the interval. I want to run this on Monday of each week, or I might also want to run it on Tuesday, as the case may be. Comma would be best there. So collectively, we can run all the reports. We can run them when we want to. An administrator could come here and uncheck this and suspend all monitors of this class for everyone. So anytime that it became essential to stop the process for whatever reason, within the full control of the administrator, they can perform that task. I don't want that, so I'll recheck it. In addition to setting the beginning date, we can also set the end date, which means that using MYTCE, you can create reports that are essentially focused on a given month, a given quarter. You can essentially say, I want to go back to June of last year and see what happened. And you can build a specific report for, in this case, the event journal that will give you the information that you're essentially looking for. This is really great for audit purposes to document what was going on at a particular point in time, perhaps looking for some nefarious event. And you can also specify that you only want new information reported. Even within the bounds of a beginning and an ending date, you can say begin here on 3/1, but I only want new information to be reported to me. All of this flexibility exists within, MYTCE. When you're done at the end of the day or whenever you're finished, I'll go ahead and select this bubble, and you back out by hitting exit. You notice it's telling us weekly email has been suspended. It's true. I did mess that. I did make a change there. When you come back in, again, TSO, command line interface, comma, asterisk MYTCE, you'll see that we're positioned back exactly where we were when we left the last time. This is a great clue to you to remind you of what your activities are and what you've been up to. Now, we've talked about this from the perspective of generating reports, setting up interval monitors, sending email, etc. But if you're a TCE administrator, you can also go to the command line and gain direct access to the controls of the policy decision point that we refer to as TCE. Just simply type CATS on the command line and press enter. And the category control records will be displayed for you, again, in an active matrix. Here you can list out all the data sets and libraries that are within the matrix itself and all the events that have occurred to it. But you can also show the control mechanisms that lie behind this that can be used to create new categories, add new data sets to categories, etc., etc. Okay, more or less the classic view that has been so important to TCE users over the years. In addition, you can also type boundary. Oh. Actually, BNDY. Let me do something here just to refresh my own memory. PF1. Okay, BNDS. By the way, that mistake was a real mistake, but it does bring me to point out the fact that behind all the panels that you see here, there is sufficient complete help to describe what's going on. The command I'm looking for is BNDS. Now when we type in BNDS, what we see now is the boundary selection panel and the boundaries within the integrity controls environment that are monitored by the control editor include data sets, load libraries, Unix files, commands, and messages. And all of these can be directly accessed from this panel. Behind each of the panels for each user, there is also a configuration file. And this is kind of important, MYCF, because if in the event that there was a problem running MYTCE, one of the things that technical support would likely ask you to do is to send this configuration file to us. Now the advantage of that is that once we have the configuration file, we can place it in an active position to give us an interface that looks exactly like yours. And so if there is an issue related to the interface and the content of the configuration file itself, it should be easily resolved by having the availability of that information. Administrators can also type the word mail on the command line and have this panel presented. This indicates what is active, daily mail, no weekly mail, because that's highlighted in red. No monthly mail is highlighted in red. But if there is something that's active, we will see the users who have signed up for that level of delivery. And if there is reason for us to believe that these users are interested in getting some communication from us, we can send them emails that will give them the information that they need about the changes that we have proposed to them. Okay. All right, well that's the major stuff that is available within the MYTCE environment. And I want to point out here as we exit this that we are really happy to support you in our efforts to promote this within your organization. And if you would like to have a more complete demonstration, more complete instruction, please don't hesitate to contact us. And remember, if you go to the command line and type CLI, comma, asterisk, my help, you will get a help panel from the command line that will tell you all you need to do in order to make that first step into the MYTCE environment. And so simply sharing that command with other users within your organization will likely go a long way to helping them to come up to speed on MYTCE, explore the content of the integrity controls environment, improve your return on investment, and give you the opportunity to expand the use throughout your organization. Thank you again for joining us on our YouTube channel. We look forward to seeing you out here again soon.